My name is DJ Alvarado. I was homeless. I was addicted to drugs. Harm reduction brought me here, honestly, 4 years ago. It's crazy to think about. I walked around the center for an hour before I decided to come in, but somebody said, "Hey, come in, get warm, get a cup of coffee." I said, "All right." Then I met Miss Nita, Laura, Miss Penny, Andre, Miss Linda. I met all of them shortly thereafter. It's been a hell of a roller coaster, but we've managed. This is what I call my ground zero. Since I found recovery, this is where I had to come to terms with a lot of things in my life, right? So a little bit of history about me. I have a nursing degree, a barber. I was a culinary artist. I came back down here because my dad committed suicide. And then I relapsed on methamphetamine in June of 2022. I found love, and then said partner committed suicide on my birthday in 2022. So after that, I really felt like I had no purpose. I felt like I had really there was no use for me. I was addicted to drugs. I'd give away basically everything I had or threw it away. I can't say I lost it because it was my actions that took me there, right? But this is where I came to terms with all of this. It was these walls that kept me fed, kept me alive. The people that were the primary focus here, like Miss Penny, Miss Linda, Miss Nita. And Miss Nita and I didn't get along at first. She still intimidates me. But once I found recovery and she told me she was proud of me, that was one of the primary focuses I have to look to. That one individual that I did not see eye to eye with at all pulled me aside and told me how proud she was of me, that I had found recovery and I was working a program. We just lost a friend last week to addiction. And it's taken the wind out of a lot of our sails, At the end of the day, we have to remember that, people have to be ready for it, right? I would have never been ready for it had I not had the support that I have here. If I didn't have the prayers, if I didn't have the accountability that I've been held to here. The reason I call the center my ground zero is because when I hit rock bottom, I didn't quit digging, right? It's cliche as the sayings are, if you don't do it for yourself, you're not going to do it. Being sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's just what I was. I remember taking naps downstairs on the floor, hunkered up in a corner with 2 book bags. That's all I had left in my life. It's just a couple book bags, stashed with clothes that either I had stolen from a donation bin or I had gotten from, some clothing closet. That became so regular to me that it didn't seem irregular. But when I finally got tired, really tired, when I got incarcerated in March of 2025. I weighed 149 pounds. I was so strung out and withdrawn. They had to put me in the medical unit because they didn't think I was going to make it. I was so weak that I couldn't pull myself up on a top bunk in jail. And then I met Chantel Leachman, the opioid care coordinator for Scott County. And she came to see me, and I was sitting on a probation violation, and I should have went to prison. But for the grace of God, I didn't. She asked me if I was done or if I was going to kill myself, basically. And, you get a lot of time to think when you're in county or incarcerated. So I did. I thought on it, and I said, yeah, I'm over it. I'm over it. I sat in county 4.5 months. I went to Salvation Army, Didn't work for me. Again, I went back out, relapsed. And the difference this time as compared to last is that I didn't give up. I kept going. I kept going until I could get it right. I had to cut out all my people, places, and most of my playgrounds in order to keep my sobriety and my clean time, because when you're in use for so long, that's all you know. You know, that's your comfort zone. I still allow myself on a daily basis to be humble and vulnerable. You know, because if I'm not, then I get back to doing what I like to do, and that's no good for me. You know what I mean? You know, I've gone with the motto, "Thy will be done, not my will be done," because my will puts me in jail. And you know, I had constant support here. Miss Penny has never given up on me. Michael has not given up on me. And now I'm not giving up on me. You know, I haven't felt this good about myself since September of 2020. You know, and I'm not gonna stop until I get me back. You know, and if it wasn't for the center, I wouldn't even be here. I know I wouldn't be here. I've overdosed 3 times, and by the grace of God, I've been brought back. You know, and that's why when I lost my friend last week to an overdose, I just had to stop and say, "But for the grace of God, go I." Because if it hadn't been for the rude wake-up calls that I had, and I had a lot of them, it could have been me. It could have been any one of my people still in active use. And unfortunately, it was one, but that's where you take that momentum and you don't keep it to the negative. You got to turn it around, and you know, you have to do something positive with that. We started discussing bringing more programming to the center, as far as meetings, AA, NA, CMA, CA, basically any A you could think of. I've been actively trying to assist with that because I'm tired of losing my friends, tired of losing my family, you know, and the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So you know, the ties that you make, the family you create when you're stuck out here on the streets, those bonds are thicker than familial, you know, because they are your family. Those are your people. And that's how I struggled the most with my recovery, is because, you know, who am I going to go to? Someone I just met in an AA meeting 3 months ago, or my brother, you know, that I've been trudging the streets with, had my back all the time. I've had his all the time. Of course I'm going to go to my brother. And unfortunately, when they're in active use, well, then, yeah, you know, then the risk is even higher. You know what I mean? So I had to love them from afar. I still have to love them from afar. You know, the only reason I still haven't even considered the idea of relapse is because now, instead of dealing dope, I'm dealing hope. You know, I'm sharing my experience, my strength, and my hope with individuals that have known me on the streets, have known me in active use, and have seen me go away from that and become twice the human being that I used to be, literally and physically. I like cooking. I very much like cooking. I like doing some peer support work as well. Michael and I were talking about there's a couple positions that opened, and me hopefully filling one of those vacancies, so that I can be more of a permanent piece of the center. I know, one, for me personally, especially with my history with the center, it'll keep me grounded. You know what I mean? And I have that support surrounding me at all times, and that's, you know, sometimes it's what we need, you know? And when you can embrace that, all the better, in my opinion. To sponsors and donors, there is hope, you know, and it's because of grace given and, you know, donations that keep people alive, that keep people that have gone through terrible things, that have experienced insane amounts of trauma. It gives them purpose and hope, and it gives them a destination. For people that are in active use and want to find recovery, I beg you to do so. it is the hardest thing you're going to do in your entire life is giving up that control. But if you stop and realize, I've already given all that control to my addiction or my alcoholism. There is support, there is people who care, and there are people that want to see you succeed just as bad as you want to. Reach out. That's what the Peer Recovery Program is for. That's what for any 12-step program is for, any Celebrate Recovery or Smart Recovery or any recovery program for that matter. The end game is all the same, is recovery, and I hope anyone can find it. Yeah.